Concerns rise in Taiwan over child COVID deaths and unusual symptoms. A controversial bill is passed acquitting Taiwan's former president of corruption charges. Why China's regional security plan for the Pacific Islands is raising the alarm in Taipei and Canberra. And China Airlines serves up a chance to own a piece of aviation history. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan's COVID-19 outbreak continues to spread, with another 109 deaths reported on Monday. Concern is growing over the pandemic's impact on children, not only for the rising number of deaths among children, but also because of unusual symptoms. Eric Gao has the details.
Taiwan's COVID-19 death toll is climbing, and a number of the fatalities are children. So far, 10 children are confirmed to have died because of COVID infections. Many of them also suffered from acute encephalitis or brain inflammation.
这个身体的免疫系统反应过度了。那我们在面对这些病原体的时候，会产生有一些叫做细胞激素这一类的东西，造成了身体其他的器官组织细胞受到伤害。
Taiwan has reported more cases of COVID-related child encephalitis than elsewhere in the world. The Central Epidemic Command Center says the reason for this is unknown, with theories about genetic or environmental factors. Encephalitis isn't the only concern. Some child patients have developed racking coughs.
奥密克戎感染期间的话，我们是真的有看到，小孩子真的有形成所谓胸骨上的或肋骨间的一个凹陷，然后呼吸非常的窘迫，甚至到我们呼吸衰竭需要到插管的程度。
The child fatalities are raising issues beyond the medical. Local television presenter Anthony Guo is in hot water after posting online that, quote, so many children have died because of COVID-19. Taiwan's Premier Su Tseng has said Guo could be fined for spreading fake news about the pandemic. This in turn has triggered backlash from the opposition over freedom of speech and abuse of government authority. Guo has since taken down his post and released an apology and clarification, saying he only meant to highlight the child death issue. To prevent more deaths, health officials urge parents to get their children vaccinated as soon as possible. Piper Yu and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's legislature has passed a bill allowing the country's former president, Chen Shui-bian, to walk free from a charge of misappropriating public money. The bill has been controversial and there were scuffles as it was passed. Chen was accused of misusing presidential office funds while he was president from 2000 to 2008. The bill retroactively acquits Chen of liability for this. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party passed the bill with 57 votes in favour and 32 objections. The opposition Kuomintang tried to stop the vote by occupying the podium and throwing cups of water. In the process, they accidentally damaged a portrait of Sun Yat-sen, the founding father of the Republic of China. Chen is currently on medical parole after being convicted on other unrelated corruption charges. China's foreign minister met with his counterparts from 10 South Pacific nations today. Wang Yi's visit to Fiji is seen as a crucial gathering, which could have ramifications for the security in the region. While initial reports indicate that Beijing has failed to secure a sweeping new agreement with a host of Pacific nations, there are concerns it could see the birth of a new regional order edging out traditional partner Australia. Raiho Kilpatrick has the details.
On a tiny fleck of land in the vast Pacific Ocean, a meeting whose ramifications may be felt around the world. On tour around the region, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi will face 10 of his counterparts to promote a new vision for the South Pacific. One that aims to take a contentious security pact recently signed by China with the Solomon Islands across the region.
王毅国务委员兼外长这次访问南太地区， 旨在深化中国同南太平洋岛国的友好合作关系，有利于促进亚太地区的和平、稳定与繁荣。
The meeting, hosted online from the Fijian capital Suva, includes every Pacific Island nation with ties to China. While sparsely populated, it is a strategic region that covers millions of square kilometers of the world's largest ocean. US-aligned Australia has long been the partner of choice here. Now, it is anxious about being pushed out by Beijing. But with a new Prime Minister recently elected in Australia, Canberra says it will redouble efforts to enhance its flagging relationship with its Pacific neighbours.
Australia has put forward a comprehensive plan, my government for the Pacific. That includes an Australia-Pacific Defence Training School. It includes increased support for maritime security. It includes an increase in our aid budget of over $500 million, re-engaging on climate change, more permanent migration from Pacific Island countries to Australia.
Wang Yi's whirlwind trip has already seen him ink new bilateral deals with Niue, Samoa, and Kiribati, signing on to Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative and vowing to deepen ties. China maintained its intentions are peaceful, but said the same before advances into the Horn of Africa and the South China Sea later saw the development of military outposts. With the South Pacific now firmly in Beijing's sights, Canberra and its ally Washington are anxiously scanning the horizon for new threats. Chris Ma and Ryan Ho Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
As mentioned, the Chinese Foreign Minister was hoping to sign a regional security deal, raising concerns that it could lead to a Chinese military presence in the region. To discuss the implications of this, I spoke with Roger Huang, lecturer in Security and International Relations at Macquarie University in Australia.
This is a serious consideration for Australia's national and security interests because you've never had this kind of precedence of potential unfriendly powers establishing kind of a new hegemony, almost a Sino-centric order in the Pacific, South Pacific Islands. The closest you have obviously was during World War II when Japanese established its military presence there. So one of this is kind of that historical cultural memory of that brutal conflict, with the Allies, Americans and Australians against the Japanese in the Solomon Islands itself.
Why is Australia so worried about what China is doing in the South Pacific?
If China is to establish any sort of a military naval presence there, this is really increase the capability of the Chinese to survey, to form their intelligence capabilities against Australian kind of troop movements, as maritime presence, etc. And also importantly, this is a major area of shipping lane, shipping routes. So again, if potentially there's any type of conflict or any kind of confrontation, and China has established a naval presence in the region, this could really isolate Australia from its trading and also strategic partners, especially the United States, etc.
How does Taiwan fit into this picture? Should Taiwan be alarmed?
Taiwan used to have a number of diplomatic recognitions in the Pacific Island states. So if more countries continue to recognize China over Taiwan, this would mean even in the United Nations, right, where you have even less member states that recognizes Taiwan and also voice and support Taiwan in any type of vote in General Assembly or elsewhere. Another key issue to consider is that if China is to establish a genuine military presence in Solomon Islands or in the Pacific Islands in general, this would be a fundamental reshifting of the US-led alliance system that has been established since 1945 after the Second World War. So in many ways, when everyone likes to talk about status quo, especially in relation to Taiwan, China is unilaterally changing the status quo. It is saying we no longer want or welcome U.S. kind of dominance in the region, and we want to become the new leader of Indo-Pacific. And this clearly will have grave consequences if it does happen for Taiwan, but as well as for all other allies of the United States.
We start in Nepal for our roundup of some of the international news. Search and rescue teams in Nepal have recovered 14 out of 22 bodies that were on board a plane that went missing on Sunday. The Tara air carrier lost contact 12 minutes after takeoff on a short local flight. It was carrying 19 passengers and 3 crew, 2 German nationals, 4 Indians and 16 Nepali citizens were on the plane. Authorities believe the incident was caused by bad weather. The Nepali army was enlisted to help with the search efforts. Airplane accidents are common in Nepal, where the weather can change quickly and landing strips are in difficult mountain terrain. Ukraine's president visited the country's second largest city to assess the damage from Russia's invasion on Sunday. Volodymyr Zelensky's stop in Kharkiv was his first official appearance outside the capital, Kyiv, since the war started. He met troops on the front line fighting to push back Russian soldiers in the northeastern region. Fierce battles are taking place in the eastern part of the country. Russian forces have stormed the strategic city of Severodonetsk, a manufacturing center still in Ukrainian hands. Zelensky says Russian shelling has damaged 90% of buildings and knocked out power in the city. Russia says it has tested a hypersonic cruise missile in waters near Norway and Sweden on Saturday. This Zircon missile can fly at up to 9 times the speed of sound, making it difficult to intercept. Experts say the only countries with similar capabilities are China and the United States. Russia's defense ministry says the warship-fired missile managed to hit a target around 1,000 kilometers away. Russia first unveiled this type of missile in 2018 and is now testing the weapon as it prepares to put it into service, possibly this year. Taiwan's flag carrier, China Airlines, is offering the chance to own a piece of aviation history, a meal trolley from a retired jumbo jet. The airline is selling off 30 catering trolleys used on its Boeing 747s before the fleet was retired last year. Collectors can pick up one of the carts for around $1,000. Some of the carts were used on the famous China Airlines flights to nowhere, with sightseers on the plane traveling a non-stop trip from Taiwan's to Japan's Fuji Mountain in 2021. South Korean cinema has scooped 2 of the big prizes at the 75th Cannes Film Festival. Best Director went to Park Chan-wook for the crime movie Decision to Leave. It's only the second time a Korean director has won the award, after Im Kwon-taek in 2002. Song Kang-ho became the first South Korean to win Best Actor for his role in Broker, a Korean-language movie about baby adoption. Song shot to international fame with the movie Parasite, which won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 2019. Again, that was a look at some of our top stories from Taiwan and around the world. Up next, a special program about the unique role that music is playing in modern-day Taiwan, hosted by Leslie Liao.
One of the best ways to tell a story is through song. I'm Leslie Liao, and in this special program, we're going to bring you some of our favorite music-related reports from Taiwan. Siraya is a language that was once spoken in the south and west of Taiwan, but it died out more than a century ago. Now, as Luis Watt reports, the love between a Taiwanese woman and a Filipino man has brought this indigenous language back to life.
Singing a song in a language that died out more than 100 years ago. But this husband and wife have brought Siraya back to life. Uma is a Siraya, an indigenous group that used to live on the plains in western Taiwan. For years, Uma had been researching her heritage, One day, a professor friend sent her a copy of a Saraya language Bible. When her Filipino husband Edgar picked it up, he was stunned.
It's like Eureka. Eureka means you discover something very special. When I look at the language itself, it looks very familiar and very similar to my language.
Edgar's mother tongue is Bisaya. Like Taiwan's indigenous languages, it's part of the Austronesian language family, which extends through Southeast Asia to islands in the Central and South Pacific. Edgar could read the 17th century Saraya Gospel.
There are quite a lot of vocabularies that is really, it's just like very match. Yeah.
When the Dutch landed on present-day Tainan in the 1600s, the Saraya outnumbered Han Chinese. Dutch missionaries wanted to spread Christianity, so they lived here among the Saraya, learned their language, and developed a Romanized writing system for it. These texts outlived the spoken language, which disappeared around 120 to 150 years ago, after more and more Chinese emigrated to Taiwan and mixed with Saraya. But no one knew how it might sound, until Edgar picked up the Bible that day. On one side is Dutch, and the other Saraya.
Pe kai kame wagi kata ki paulan kamamsing. Ka inay kami dumilug tu repungan ra haume e kame kilitu.
虽然说有一段时间已经没有在这样子这个语言没有在流通，好没有在人跟人之间在使用，可是当我们找到了它还有它的一个资料，然后我们认为用这样的一个资料，它是可以去重新去发展的。
They started with songs. Edgar, a professional composer, turned simple Saraya words and phrases into music. The couple worked with linguists and trained teachers, and now the language is taught in more than 20 schools in Tainan. In this school, all the pupils learn it for 2 hours a week.
例如说，我说一只蝴蝶，你们要怎么讲？等一下呢，老师会把课本发下去。肯定是什么？鱼好。的记很好，再来。安好安来。
As well as learning grammar and singing songs, teachers take the children on walks around old Saraya land and introduce them to the former place names.
我觉得希腊语很好玩，因为可以唱歌跳舞。
But Uma and Edgar say revitalizing the language starts in the home. They've taught their 3 children Saraya. They use it in their daily life.
When we see the butterfly or bird, we will say, "Oh, atata halibangbang" or "anata ayam." Just use some simple sentence to express our feeling.
The couple hope reviving the language will help get the indigenous group official recognition from Taiwan's government.
当然，它也代表了一个这个在台湾的这一块土地上的一个人们有不一样的族群，那属于这个族群特有的一个这样子的一个语言，我觉得是非常珍贵的。那它也代表了我们的一个认同。
The language would still be long forgotten if Uma and Edgar hadn't fallen in love and married.
We found this old document and we wanted to bring it back to life. Yeah. So if we did not meet each other, then perhaps heaven would create maybe another couple that would, have done that. But we're not sure. There's no telling, right?
Composer Edgar and lyricist Uma now make music together in a language that is both old and new, while helping to rediscover a people's lost identity. Khvat for TaiwanPlus.
Alexander Adelaar is a historical linguist working on Austronesian languages at the University of Melbourne's Asia Institute. He worked with a Taiwanese-Filipino couple to create a grammar guide and vocabulary for the Siraya language. TaiwanPlus reporter Louise Watt spoke to the Dutch linguist and asked him about the challenges in reviving disappearing languages.
Stopped being spoken about 150 years ago, 120 years ago. But when it stopped being spoken, it had probably already borrowed a lot, or it was already influenced by Chinese quite a bit, the local Hokkien Chinese. So Siraya was almost irrecognizable from the bits and pieces that we have as evidence. It was almost recognizable for someone like me who had studied the 17th century Siraya.
How unusual is it for a language that has essentially died out, the spoken language, to be brought back to life?
It's extremely unusual. It had never been done until Hebrew became the national language, became a language spoken in Palestine and later Israel. That is the first language which was successfully revived, and it wasn't successful in the beginning. You need extremely motivated people who would even go who would go in absolutely great length to push that, and you don't get support from the world around you who think that you are a bit of an eccentric and that they shouldn't pay attention to you, that it's not worth taken seriously. You will Edgar and Umar had an enormous resistance from scholars in Taiwan and from linguists at the beginning who were not taking them seriously.
PAPUN means afraid of getting fat in Mandarin. It's also the name of a band featured in the TaiwanPlus original docuseries Road to Legacy. On the eve of their 15th anniversary, we went backstage to interview them and find out how they became one of Taiwan's most popular and most unique punk bands.
If you want to play music, you need money. If you have no money, you can't do shit. Get a job!
That's the advice from PAPUN drummer Lee to up-and-coming bands. Nowadays, Lee is the owner of a bar, while the other two members, Bo and Shiny, are full-time musicians. But what was it like when they started? PAPUN was formed in 2007. They rose to fame thanks to their silly yet eye-catching performances. When they started, they played lots of gigs with very low pay or even for free. 12 years later, in 2019, they had a sold-out concert at Legacy, a venue that can hold 1,000 people. To understand how they got there, we have to start from the beginning. And the question is, why did they name their band PAPUN, which is Mandarin for afraid of getting fat?
原本闪亮在想团名的时候，那时候就是他，因为他特别喜欢 PAPUN 这曲风，然后我们就在讨论说，那团名到底要取什么？然后我就想说，因为 PAPUN 念很快，就变怕胖的感觉，然后因为他本人又很胖，所以呢就觉得如果他叫怕胖团的话，会很有趣。
PAPUN's live performances are always fun and energetic. And they've performed in strange venues that no other bands have played before, like in a swimming pool.
那也是蛮酷的，因为我们也没有自己办过在户外，就是那种奇怪的场地。我们小时候都看那个 Sum 41的有一支 MV 叫 Into Deep， 它就是在游泳池里面嘛，那就对我们影响很深啊。就是我也想要在这个地方表演试试看啊。
PAPUN identify themselves as a punk band, but some people say their music is not punk. The band says that punk isn't just a genre of music, it's also a way of life.
也不是说听觉上吧，我是说就是做自己想做的事情，就是一个很朋克的事啊。
你看过我们表演就知道我们多朋克了。
The soul of the band is the lead singer and songwriter Shiny, who writes most of the band's songs and has even directed some of their music videos. Like Peter Pan, he's known for not wanting to grow up.
我觉得只要我变成有点大人的样子，那我的妈妈就会看起来变老，因为她就觉得她责任退下。一个责任退下的人，对我来说就是她觉得她老了。我不希望我妈变老，所以我就是要一直是她的小孩子。
说难听一点，学音乐真的是养活不了他自己啦。后来会走这一条，我是觉得就是我们也没有阻止他，也没有什么特别的支持跟鼓励，想说你进来玩就让你去玩，就这样子。好大的月亮，你有看到吗？我一个人在窗前看着。
Shiny may be afraid of growing up, and PAPUN may be afraid of getting fat. But one thing's for sure, they're certainly not afraid of their newfound success. The band recently released a new EP called 5, and they are gearing up for their biggest concert ever. Their 15th anniversary celebration at Zepp New Taipei, which can hold 2,000 people. Kamashi, Klein Wan, and Yvonne Young for TaiwanPlus.
我愿意用时间来证明活着的意义。
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Stay safe and see you next time.